Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Flame Emperor episode number 445 based on novel. So let's start. It really is the holy flame. No wonder this guy can sense the obscure things in the clan. In that case, that's all. Hearing Xiao Yang's provocative words, second elder Ma Lin shook his head slightly, and then looked at Xiao Yang with a beautiful nod, as if he was weighing something. Xiao Yang, regardless of his strength or background, is not afraid of the fire elves, but he must not be underestimated. If the provocative words just now changed anyone, I am afraid that these elf powerhouses will instantly kill them here. Elder Ma Lin, this human is trying to provoke the dignity of our fire elf. Please order us to arrest him. Outside the altar of the elf, a group of elven powerhouses looked at Xiao Yang with fierce eyes, and a voice containing anger sounded like thunder. It was obvious that they were very annoyed when they heard Xiao Yang's extremely arrogant voice. The fire elves are so powerful, isn't it possible for a guy with insufficient samsara strength to slander them? This is my second brother, if you have any further disputes. Xiao Yi spoke out at the same time. Sen Lung's murderous aura made the temperature here violently churned. Be quiet. Enter the altar, the competition is about to begin. After taking his breath, the second elder Ma Lin shook his head, and then waved his hand casually, and the dazzling energy halo fell down and poured into the altar deep in the forest, completely starting the altar. Today's battle, the three of you have only one chance. The winner will be the next king of our fire elves. The loser will live or die. During the competition, any strong player is strictly prohibited. The second elder Ma Lin looked around and said to the 9 people around him and a group of elven powerhouses who came here admiringly. His voice was like an unusually deep hong bell, impacting the souls of everyone present, and the warning was very obvious. The second elder, Ma Lin, who is in charge of the competition between the 3 major tribes of the fire elves, has unfathomable strength. Yes. The 9 agreed together, and immediately stepped into the altar of spirits first. The altar of the elf is not only located at the highest point of the entire sky-sea space, but also in the depths of a beautiful and quiet forest, protected by a layer of tens of thousands of thick enchantments. This is the holy land of the fire elves. The altar is a vast field of thousands of feet. It is made of sacred flint from the fire elves. It is extremely sacred. In addition to the existence of energy enchantments, the word altar is well deserved. There are several stone seats in the center of the venue to supervise the fairness of the competition, as well as a very bright elf statue, standing quietly in the center of the altar. Although it was just a statue, everyone could smell a trace of extremely ancient fluctuations from its body. It seemed that the survival of this world was only between a frown and a smile. Yaoji statue. The statue stands in the center of the entire altar, indicating that all elves have devout belief in the goddess Yaoji, and all decisions and competitions are conducted justly under her watch. The lively atmosphere slowly enveloped this sacred altar, and the invisible battle was about to start. 3 electors come forward, and you have a chance to draw lots. One of the 3 will lose and directly advance to the finals. The 2 who have been drawn will start fighting together. There will be 3 players on each side. By the way, if you are against Xiao Yang, you must not kill him, otherwise the clan will deal with it according to the rules. Elder Ma Lin stood gracefully in front of the Yaoji statue, frowned, and immediately added some other conditions to the final rules. After all, because of Xiao Yang's last words and the amber flame, he had to say the fire elves still need a little bit of strength from Xiao Yang. Humph, have you been underestimated? Xiao Yang smiled when he heard the words, but this was normal. After all, the gap between the 8-star Dozian and the reincarnation powerhouse was like a gulf, and there were very few fighters in the entire Great Thousand World who could cross the class. I'm afraid it has something to do with the amber flame just now. Some elf figures were surprised when they heard the words, but after a moment's thought, they were able to guess some clues, but at this time they were quietly staying in the center of the altar, waiting for the next exciting competition. The next battle will be unprecedented and extremely fierce. Hurry up. Seeing the 3 electors nod together, Ma Lin waved and urged. Xiao Yi, Princess Alice, and Princess Chen Qin stepped forward together, and then began to draw lots under the guidance of second elder Ma Lin. What's the result? Among the 3, I don't know who was so lucky to be able to directly fail to advance to the finals. There were many elves and strong people in the audience guessing. Is the situation not optimistic? Xiao Yang sat proudly on the stone seat, his eyes lightly swept the Yaoji statue and this altar space. It seemed that some extremely obscure evil power was slowly exuding. When he turned to Xiao Yi, His face was slightly touched, very ugly and violent atmosphere. Did this fire elves encounter something? Xiao Yang muttered to himself, and then the smile on his face slowly fell, and the fierce suffocating energy at the corners of his lips was as cold as a 1,000-year-old cave. Second brother. A few minutes later, Xiao Yi quietly retreated, but at this time, his eyes were filled with a rare heaviness, and I am afraid the result of the lottery would be extremely unfavorable for them. Unfortunately, we drew lots against the Alice tribe. Xiao Yi's lips were a little dry, and the corners of her eyes were as sharp as blades, and she stared at the three Alice in the distance. The two tribes have fought hundreds of times, both large and small, and they have already formed a very deep relationship. Now that the first battle is about to fight, it is natural to avoid such a hateful appearance. Is it Princess Chen who failed? Xiao Yang nodded, suddenly turned his head to look over. Princess Chen was playing the piano with both hands, looking at ease and tranquility, but when looking at the latter, the domineering body in his body actually burst out with an unprecedented wave, the surging power. I always feel that this guy is the biggest obstacle. Scanning to no avail, Xiao Yang turned his attention to the three Alices, two of them at the first level of reincarnation, and one of them at the level of reincarnation. This huge handwriting is enough to make any strong person take it seriously. In the first round, I will play. In the lingering voice, Ellen, one of the two maidservants behind Alice, stepped out and looked at Xiao Yi with a fierce look, and the cold murderous intent unabashedly permeated out. Second brother, let me go. Xiao Yi has a slender body, and her beautiful face is surrounded by purple flames, and she has an innate rebelliousness in her bones. Do not. Elder Marvin, this battle is up to you. Xiao Yang's eyes suddenly became sharp. He turned his head and spoke to the old man behind him. Okay. Just let this old man come and meet the rude people of your western tribe. Ha ha ha. Elder Marwen stepped out, and the altar space around his body actually wriggled slightly, and an extremely fierce brown flame slowly swept out. In the first battle, the Western tribe reincarnation rank Alan vs the Southern tribal reincarnation rank Marvin. The vast voice came from the mouth of the second elder Ma Lin, and suddenly the energy of the whole world began to boil in a rare way. Enchantment, open. Second elder Ma Lin snorted coldly, and suddenly stretched out his hand to take out a piece of silver elf flailstone, crushing it at will. The ancient and vast power slanted out like a tide, and suddenly filled the void of this holy altar, layer by layer. An extremely thick energy barrier covered everyone's bodies. This level of energy barrier was enough to withstand the fierce confrontation of the second and third reincarnation levels. At this time, the altar is like two O shapes inside and outside. A small circle of protection covers the center of the altar, and the outer circle other than the center of the altar is the place of battle. Alan, just reincarnation rank, let's admit defeat as soon as possible. The gap between the reincarnation rank and the first rank is like an insurmountable gulf. Ma Wen was dressed in a grey robe, with strips of light brown flames drawn on the clothes. At this time, Ma Wen stepped into the altar barrier and said to Alan, the confident expression between his words was undoubtedly on display. It's uncertain who will kill the deer. Let's do it. Alan ignored it, and looked away with countless provocations in her eyes. At the same time, her body was covered with ancient and mysterious brown flames. After a low hum, Alan and Marvin were strong. The man swept into the air of the altar directly, and the reincarnation pressure on his body spread out like a surging river, making the atmosphere in this altar land suppressed to the extreme. The first battle begins. With the suppression of his strength, Marvin did not hesitate. During the roaring of the flames all over his body, countless brown flames burst into a dazzling halo. The elf powerhouse's eyelids twitched violently. The strength of the first-level reincarnation is so terrifying. Alan didn't move rashly. Countless brown flames formed a 100-jong-sized sea of energy around his body. Countless brown flames lingered. His body was in the center of the sea of fire, and it seemed that something was slowly sounding. What is that? Xiao Yang and Xiao Yi held their breath as they watched the battle in the altar, but they found that in the center of the sea of fire that Alan cast out, there was something looming, carrying some kind of special power. It was a seemingly ordinary stone, but the whole body was blue in color, and a feather was inlaid inside the stone. The feather seemed to be suppressed and sealed inside, and it faintly exuded a monstrous aura. Witcher! How come? When Xiao Yi saw this, her handsome face became gloomy, making her look extremely distorted and ugly. The flames of elves in the fire elves were born in the space of the sea of the sky, and their power is a bit more tyrannical than the ordinary flames of the sky, and there are countless legends. Relying on this kind of flame, the power of the fire elves is strong. The reader has a lucky chance to spy on the supreme magic power and chants of the goddess Yaoji. I didn't expect that this Alan's reincarnation level would be so lucky. A witch tool, although it can't defeat Ma Lao, it can also consume a lot of Ma Lao's power. Xiaoyi was talking to herself, but it was more like explaining the reason with Xiao Yang. Don't worry, just look at it. Xiao Yang nodded indifferently. The violent aura in his eyes was like a furious tiger dormant here. Witchcraft, it's just a trace of the power of the goddess Yaoji. In the face of absolute power, you have no chance. Flame. Marvin's eyes fell on the azure stone with intense energy in Aaron's sea of fire, and the power in his body suddenly tumbled. Obviously, he was not going to keep any hand, otherwise once Alan pushed this thing with all his strength, it would reach that at times, you will inevitably have to spend more energy. The power of a witch weapon is similar to that of an immortal weapon in the Great Thousand World, but it is far from enough to threaten the reincarnation level powerhouse. However, the power of the witch tool should not be underestimated. After all, this is the power of the goddess Yaoji, and the power in the body of all the powerhouses of the elves has an indispensable relationship with Yaoji, so this kind of thing is strong for the elves. As far as it is concerned, it is not only a rare treasure, but also a difficult weapon to deal with. Are you afraid too? Alan smiled slowly, and then the power of reincarnation in his body worked perfectly. A slender jade hand pressed his chest and patted it mercilessly. The bright red blood overflowed from the corner of his cold mouth, and was collected and held by him. The palm, wrapped in brown flames, fell directly against the witchcraft. It's really worth it. Feeling Alan's life-threatening attack, the power of reincarnation in Marvin became heavier, like a mountain with tens of thousands of weights pressing on his body. Marvin, you don't distinguish right from wrong, you helped Jew an abuse, today. I will replace Princess Alice and kill you. Ching Wu Yu. Alan couldn't take care of the weakness in his body, and there was a mad look hanging from the corner of his mouth. His blood essence and cyan stones were tightly intertwined, and a cyan energy halo was like a small black hole whirlpool. It is centered in front of it, and it comes out wanton everywhere, and the terrifying fluctuations along the way may be enough to annihilate any reincarnation-level powerhouse. It's good to come. Marvin's laughter resounded like thunder, and everyone immediately saw that when Aaron's mighty terrifying black hole vortex attack came into contact with Marvin's surroundings, extremely sharp winds swept out. Looking up, a 1,000-meter-sized brown chain of fire, carrying an incomparably strong suffocating arrogance, was ruthlessly destroying Aaron's attack in an almost destructive stance. With this level of attack, the already weak Ellen's beautiful eyes shrank violently, and she even felt that even with the blessing of a witch weapon, it was impossible for her to defeat such a furious Marvin. This guy is a bit bloody. Xiao Yang's eyes swept across the sky and followed the brown fire chain. At this time, Ma Wen's face was expressionless, his pupils were extremely cold, and endless killing intent was tilted out, so that Alan's body and strength are being eaten away bit by bit. Whoa! Crack! The brown chain of fire tore out with a fierce attack, tearing apart all of Alan's attack defenses almost instantly, and the latter did not hold any hands, and the method was extremely ruthless to knock Alan into a coma, and finally kicked out of the altar space with one kick, and kicked to the position of several people in the Western tribe. At this moment, the audience is dead silent. Although there is a big gap between the strengths of the two, this kind of battle is too neat, isn't it? Who would have thought that in the first battle of the two southwestern tribes, Alan, who possessed a witch weapon, would be so easily killed by him? Although there are clear rules in the competition, life and death are irrelevant, but Marvin did not directly strangle Ellen. What he is doing now is naturally to warn other elf powerhouses with bad intentions. Today's Alan, his breath is on the verge of death, and the countless forces in his body are tumbling and raging. Difference, get out of this seat. After doing all this, there were bursts of blood-colored aura on Marvin's face, and he glared at him. Get out. Marvin's voice was like rolling thunder, resounding through the entire altar, and with the power of reincarnation, it turned out to make everyone under the protection of the barrier uneasy. This Marvin's strength is not bad. If it goes on like this, within 1,000 years, I am afraid that he has the qualifications to compete for the seat of the Fire Elf Elder. Looking at the end of the first round of the competition, the second Elder Ma Lin nodded to the latter with a smile on his face. The strength displayed by the two during the battle was much more tyrannical than the ordinary first-level reincarnation. Humph. Old Marvin. A few years ago, you were bullied by our Western tribe and turned into a lost dog. How can he call you here today? Difference stretched out his hand to take the unconscious Alan. Without even looking at him, a terrifying aura swept out from his body, directly matching Marvin's aura. Ma Wen is a free-spirited elf among the elf tribe, but unfortunately, when the three major tribes were standing apart, he was sincerely invited to join by the Western tribe. If the invitation failed, he was almost murdered by difference. The head was in a different place, which also created Ma Wen's belief in Xiao Yi's order. Your words alone are not enough for such qualifications. When Ma Wen heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and there was a rare sinister murderous intent in his eyes. Now that you're ready, then let's start. The voice fell, and the second battle started completely. Old man, you were lucky enough to escape last time, but this time, this seat will crush you to ashes. A sarcastic and arrogant smile appeared at the corner of Different's mouth, and the energy in the entire barrier began to shake slightly. Right on my mind. Ma Wen's eyes became extremely cold, the blue veins on his arms burst out, and the corners of his mouth and smile also became deep and cold. At the same time, the soles of his feet stomped viciously against the void, and a circle of invisible flame ripples spread out, the kind of horror the high temperature and mysterious power are heart-palpitating. Boom! The bodies of the two disappeared in place in an instant, and they stepped out and started fighting in the center of the altar barrier. Since both of them have the strength of the first-level reincarnation, they are evenly matched, so just at the beginning, the terrifying reincarnation of the two, along with the unique power of the fire elves, turned into two meteors, wreaking havoc in the enchantment. Wherever they went, the void hummed, and a trace of violent energy ripples spread out. Second brother, I'll come in a while. Looking at the two people who were fighting fiercely in the arena, Xiao Yi approached Xiao Yang and spoke in a low voice. Her voice also had a very worried look. If this election fails, I'm afraid their situation. Not urgent. By the way, Princess Qianqin from the Eastern Land, tell me specifically, I always feel that this guy is even more dangerous than Alice. Xiao Yang's eyes kept lingering on Alice and Qianqin. Just relying on the strength of his soul and his sense of smell, Xiao Yang could roughly judge the danger level of the two. Princess Alice and Princess Qianqin, both in terms of appearance and strength, can be regarded as real top figures among the fire elves. Princess Alice has always had a faint air of superior self-confidence. On the other hand, Princess Qianqin is no different from a weak princess, but based on Xiao Yang's years of battles, it can be easily deduced that this Princess Qianqin is extraordinary. The most important thing is that the tyrannical body and some powers of the tyrant in his own body actually jumped strangely when Xiao Yang was watching Princess Qianqin. It felt like he was facing a great enemy. Princess, the human kid behind Mr. Yi seems to be gazing at you intentionally or unintentionally, do you see? The two female reincarnation elf guards beside Qianqin frowned, and immediately lowered their voices and said in their ears. It doesn't matter, anyway, there will be a battle between him and me. Princess Qianqin smiled and said. Xiangxiangqiang's fingers waved and swirled, and a moving piece of music permeated out, as if there were words in her words. Princess, in my opinion you are overthinking it. Among the three people in the southern tribe, only Ma Wen is the only one in the reincarnation stage, and the other two have not yet stepped into the reincarnation. Even if they hold the well-known holy flame in the thousands of worlds in their hands, they are definitely not Princess Alice's rival. What the princess needs to worry about is how to deal with Princess Alice. After all, in this competition, we have a great chance of winning. The female elf Sammy smiled, obviously already calculating the chances of Qianqin winning. Not always. Princess Qianqin smiled suddenly, and then smiled without saying a word, quietly watching the battle above the sky, as if everything was in her hands. Only she knew that although Alice was tyrannical, unfortunately, because of some intuition, she knew that the latter was not Xiao Yang's opponent. After all, there was something in Xiao Yang that made her even terrified of her first-tier strength. Bang bang bang! Just when everyone's thoughts were different, the rushing sounds of collisions between metals formed extremely violent reincarnation forces, swept out from the altar space, and the terrifying humming sound of explosions could be heard incessantly. Everyone hurriedly looked up and saw that the entire altar space had a rare sense of fuzzy distortion, and the culprits were the two powerhouses with the strength of the first-layer reincarnation. On Different's palm, a brown fire sword bloomed with a terrifying high temperature, and in Marvin's hand, a fire chain was displayed, and the void with a radius of 1,000 meters was vaguely twisted by these two forces, and bursts of air burst into the air. The sound of humming and explosion shook the hearts of everyone. It seems that the killer must be Yu's. There were bursts of consternation on Marvin's face. Obviously, this guy's strength is almost equal to his own. If this goes on, it's just a waste of time, so he is ready to strike with all his strength. Reincarnation fire chain. With an idea in his mind, the reincarnation aura in Ma Wen rolled, tilted out like a tide, and the brown flames unreservedly entwined into a 1,000-jong chain of fire. A trace of ancient mysterious ripples surged on the chain of fire, and where it spread, the void trembled. Even the energy of heaven and earth has become dim. A discerning person can see through it at a glance. The attack that this guy is using now is very different from the chain of fire he used to deal with Alan. Fire Spirit Sword. In the face of Marvin's full-strength blow at this time, Div's eyes turned cold, and the brown flames overflowed from his arms like a fountain, giving everyone an extreme chill, and then countless brown flames poured into the Fire Spirit Sword. The dazzling brown flame is like a scorching sun, outlines countless brown lines, and blooms with endless scorching pressure. Boom! The two attacked, and countless creatures screamed, and the violent reincarnation power raged in the altar barrier, and the entire barrier became twisted and shook. Who will win? The scorching and terrifying energy slammed into each other, and the hearts of countless elven powerhouses jumped tightly, and the curiosity in their hearts could no longer be contained. Who won? The atmosphere in the entire elf shrine was extremely depressing. In the blink of an eye, the battle in the shrine's enchantment had a clear winner and loser, and some strong elves could not help speaking out. The violent energy gathered into countless dark smoke, which spread from the center of the battle, blocking everyone's sight and perception, but the energy contained in it caused some weaker people to succumb to vindictiveness. When Alice and Xiao Yi saw this, they moved out one step at a time, and then one of them caught a dying man who was quickly retreating. The two are naturally the two in the second battle. Gulu. It's actually a draw. Both losers. Looking at the two embarrassed elves, the minds of countless figures buzz. Elder Ma, you did a great job, thank you very much. Xiao Yi's eyes flickered, and she could see that Ma Wen almost used all his strengths to achieve such a scene, and if it weren't for Ma Wen's hard work, different opponent would be himself. My lord, it's a pity that your subordinates could almost defeat him. Although there are many scars on his body, covered by dozens of large and small flaming sword scars, the shocking scars did not give him any sense of fear and pain. On the contrary, there was still a strong fighting intent in Ma Wen's voice. Laromar, you have done a good job, leave it to us next. After Xiao Yi finished speaking, she took Ma Laro back to the center of the altar to recuperate at ease. His Royal Highness, this guy forced the source at the last moment, and I was defeated. Otherwise, I would definitely be able to deal with him and stop the remaining two for Her Royal Highness. Difference looked at the elegant figure of Alice beside him, and couldn't help groaning. At this time, Alice raised one hand gracefully, forming an energy tray to drag Div's disorganized body. It seemed that no matter what Div did, she would keep the distance between the two, lest the latter's messy costume would destroy it. Own nobility. If you lose, you lose. Why do you need so many excuses? Leave the rest to me, I will take back the glory that belongs to me, let's go. Alice waved her hand lightly, and sent Difference back to the center of the altar at will, with her slender jade hand encircling her chest. Her long eyelashes swept slightly over the positions of Xiao Yi and Xiao Yang, and the implication was very obvious. Second brother, I'll go too. Xiao Yi nodded at Xiao Yang, and immediately stepped out of the void and left. Go, let me see how you have changed over the years. Xiao Yang smiled leisurely. Haha, young Master Yi, I haven't seen you for a few years, and your strength has reached the 8-star Doshin consummation. It's really embarrassing. Looking at Xiao Yi's arrival, Alice showed her teeth and opened her mouth softly, but everyone could hear how provocative it was. Humph, I've heard for a long time that Princess Alice is unparalleled in force in the world. I'm fortunate to have a moment today, and I hope the princess will give me some advice. Xiao Yi's body was lifted into the air, and her beautiful face also maintained a rebellious look. Her eyes were lightly watching Alice. I knew that you would become such a big scourge. When you first came to this space, you should have been strangled. It's really a mistake to let you grow up for so many years. But now that there are no many rules and regulations of the elf race, it is a good choice to use this elf altar as your burial place. Princess Alice's jade hand raised to cover her rosy lips, with a lazy look, a trace of extremely cold killing intent, entwined out. Since that's the case, then let me see the true power of Princess Alice. Xiao Yi snorted coldly, and a rare trace of violence emerged from the depths of her eyes. If you're ready, let's start. Second Elder Ma Lin urged. I'll leave you with a whole corpse for a while, so that your brother can collect the corpse for you. Alice's beautiful face was covered with a seductive smile, and her beautiful eyes were filled with an icy coldness. After today, the 3 major tribes will be completely disintegrated, and Alice is the next king of the Fire Elf clan. No matter how talented Xiao Yi is, no matter how virtuous and dignified Chen Qin is, Today I will step on them completely and let them become stepping stones on my way to success. Crash. When Xiao Yi heard this, she shrugged undeniably, and immediately the surging purple flame energy in her body rose into the sky. The purple flame just appeared in the altar's enchantment, and the Yaoji statue in the center was slightly touched, as if there was some kind of mysterious connection between the two. Have you touched Samsara? Little Yi Gongzi is really tyrannical. Alice stepped horizontally, and on the light blue dress, stripes of brown flame patterns flickered, and even the light blue crystal above the jade neck showed a rare power. The strength of these two should not be underestimated. I hope Xiao Yi can win. Xiao Yan kept his eyes on the arena. He naturally ignored the rules of the fire elf competition. It was good for Xiao Yi to win, but if anything went wrong, he would be the first to do it without hesitation. Fire Spirit Palm. The purple fire rose above Xiao Yi's body, and the whole person flashed like a ghost in the altar's enchantment. On the palm of his hand, there was a purple palm print with a size of 100 meters, with extremely fierce and terrifying fluctuations, and he did not hesitate to shoot at it. The point of Alice. There is no mercy in the shot. Once it is shot, it is in the category of immortality. Nice power. Xiao Yi's seemingly terrifying speed was self-defeating in Alice's eyes. Immediately, her beautiful eyes closed slightly, and the crystals on the jade neck flickered. She immediately stretched out her Chunghua finger and pointed at the void behind her. At the same time, the boundless breath of reincarnation turned into butterfly shadows dancing gracefully in this enchantment rumbling. Xiao Yi was extremely fast, even splitting out many phantoms in the enchantment, and there were terrifying attacks on her palms, but she didn't wait for Xiao Yi to tilt her attack on Alice. Alice pointed out, all of Xiao Yi's phantoms were instantly smashed, and the slender Chunghua fingers touched the palm of Xiao Yi's palm, and the tingling sensation was slowly transmitted. At this moment, when her attack was blocked, Xiao Yi only felt a numbness from her slender Chunghua fingers. Her entire arm seemed to be frozen, and she was not under her control at all. Butterfly shadows swept away, the void around Xiao Yi buzzed, and there were extremely rare tiny cracks in her figure, looming. The reincarnation seal in your body has not yet been controlled. Just the power of the present is as ridiculous as an ant to me. Use all your strength, otherwise you won't have any chance. She casually took Xiao Yi's probing attack, and immediately Alice raised her head and opened her eyes, as if the Emperor of Heaven was looking down at an ant. That kind of coercion directly hit Xiao Yi's soul, making people shudder. This is the power of reincarnation, the terrifying aura of the royal family of fire elves. The first reincarnation level, the fire elf royal family, Princess Alice, is really strong. Xiao Yi's whole body trembled, and purple flames gushed out from her body, instantly dispelling her seemingly terrifying offensive, and then the two looked at each other at a distance, and Xiao Yi's handsome face couldn't help showing a sneer. This guy's flame seems to be similar to the fluctuation of holy flame, but it is too weak. What happened? Xiao Yang shook his head. The battle just now was clearly seen in his eyes. Although Xiao Yi's strength should not be underestimated, Alice's strength was equally extraordinary. After all, the latter was able to intercept Xiao Yi's tyrannical attack at will, which was enough to prove this point. It's just that the purple flames and soul shadows rising from Xiao Yi's body, as well as the ancient imprints that began to flicker between her eyebrows, filled this barrier with an unprecedented aura of depression. Although that kind of aura fluctuation is extremely weak, it makes many strong people present clearly feel it, and it contains an irresistible supreme coercion. Next, let you see the true power of the seal of reincarnation. Xiao Yi's body was lifted into the air, and countless purple flames poured out of her body like a tide, filling the entire sky barrier with nothing left. The energy soul shadow of the goddess Yaoji trembled slightly behind her, and every tremor carried a trace of it. Suffocating horror temperature and energy, fire. With the emergence of such a thick purple flame, Xiao Yi folded her hands together, her eyes became abnormally cold, and countless energies of heaven and earth in the enchantment whizzed away. There is a vaguely condensed and beautiful soul shadow, which is building and condensing. The soul shadow on Xiao Yi's body is very easy to distinguish, wearing a gorgeous black dress inlaid with gold inscriptions, wearing a purple fire gold crown, Baiji's skin and a near-perfect face, especially the nobility that is revealed invisibly. The divine aura made one couldn't help but feel an awe-inspiring feeling of wanting to pay homage. It seems that any beautiful words cannot be used on this soul shadow. It is not so much a soul shadow, but it has a very real sense of oppression. This guy can actually summon the soul shadow of the goddess Yaoji. With Xiao Yi's actions above the sky, the atmosphere in the entire altar boiled, and even the second elder Ma Lin, who had always been quiet, suddenly stood up from the stone seat, his pupils shrank tightly, and his voice trembled. Loud opening. This is the ghost image of Goddess Yaoji? How could it be possible? Seeing the surprised look on the second elder Ma Lin, countless elven powerhouses stared at the beautiful soul shadow behind Xiao Yi in a stunned manner. An unprecedented power made the power in their bodies become silent and worshipped. The word Yaoji is equivalent to the supreme goddess among the elves. Anyone who is contaminated with her identity will increase in value and strength by geometric multiples. The reincarnation seal, the soul shadow of the goddess Yaoji, it seems that you can't keep it. There was a trace of surprise in Princess Alice's beautiful eyes, and she immediately felt a long-lost heart palpitation when she looked at the reincarnation mark shining brightly in the middle of Xiao Yi's eyebrows, and the shadow of the soul behind her that contained everything that wiped out everything. It seems that letting him condense like this may have an impact on his plans. She is a princess who pursues perfection, and she will never allow her plan to be broken by such a nameless person. Moreover, as long as she kills her, she can take the opportunity to get Xiao Yi's reincarnation seal and covet the treasures in her clan. After all, there are a lot of rules among the fire elves, and their high-ranking electors are not allowed to take action easily on weekdays. Today's competition is obviously a good opportunity not to be missed. Star Butterfly Shadow. On Alice's skin, bursts of dazzling cyan energy fell down, like a river of holy light spilling over the world, and began to gather. A round of dazzling star charts appeared on his back, and at the same time, a butterfly shadow energy figure as light as a butterfly dance also quietly descended here. Are these two guys crazy? At this moment, there were constant voices of surprise around the altar, and even they dared not fight against this level of fluctuation. It's really hard to deal with. But Yaoji Holy Shadow. The violent purple flame is like a surging river that shakes the sky whistling in the barrier. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yi's body is tightly wrapped by the purple flame, and the soul shadow of the goddess that looks like a natural goddess is also more and more brilliant. If you don't use strength to perceive, from a distance, Yaoji Ziying behind Xiaoyi looks like a noble princess, but anyone can clearly perceive that there is something on this delicate energy soul shadow. What a great power! With that kind of power, even if it is faced with a level of reincarnation level strength, I am afraid it will only end in sadness. That is the supreme power that the world wants to destroy. Wong buzzing. Seemingly worried, the Samsara India at the center of Xiao Yi's eyebrows burst out with a hot purple halo, which was then injected into the soul shadow, and an ancient and vast force slanted out. In this way, it is almost close to Xiao Yi's full-strength blow. If such power cannot destroy Alice, I am afraid that Xiao Yi will also. Let's end it with one blow. Alice opened her red lips, her eyes were slightly closed, and her slender hands were closed together under the gaze of countless people. As the palms changed, there was an ancient and mysterious wave that was transmitted from her palm prints. Butterfly shadow, a mark. Could this be the supreme secret technique among the fire elves? Seeing Alice act like this, Marvin couldn't care about the feeling of weakness in his body, and said in shock, "Whoa." As soon as the voice fell, the huge green circles of about 1,000 feet spread across the altar barrier like ripples. During the spread of the green circles, Butterfly Shadow, who had been quietly crawling beside it, began to move. Butterfly eyes stretched, butterfly wings swayed, and it turned out that the entire energy barrier swayed restlessly in an instant, and an extremely terrifying coercion was released from it. Xiao Yi's shadow was brewing behind him, so he didn't rush to take action, because this level of battle he only has one chance. Xiao Yi stood in the sky, her eyes were slightly closed at the same time, her hands were crossed and folded like Alice, and between the changes, the ghost shadow of Yaoji behind her was even more condensed and realistic, as if a real supreme ruler had come here. Hu Lingjing, butterfly shadow. Alice suddenly opened her eyes, and a violent aura emerged. Immediately, she raised her slender hand and slapped it fiercely at Xiao Yi who was beside her. Boom! The boundless mighty pressure and the breath of reincarnation emerged from the butterfly shadow and green circle behind him, and even the air instantly solidified. Boom! Xiao Yi's attack was not inferior at all, and the two were instantly intertwined. Several colors were entangled in the center of the altar's enchantment. In the originally stable space, bursts of dazzling blue light suddenly erupted, and the numbness of the scalp shocked countless people. Everyone couldn't observe how intense the battle between the two was. They could only see that there were several kinds of energy boiling in the cyan radiance. Wherever they went, there was a rare sense of laxity in the entire energy barrier. The originally vibrant energy barrier actually became dim after this cyan brilliance passed by, and a dead grey color revealed some kind of extremely distorted morbidity, as if the power in the space was deprived and nibbled away by it, and the speed was still high. Especially amazing. This video will end here.